Hi, folks. Let's talk about the great California con job. Brought to you by Gavin Newsom and his merry band of Democrat arsonists, both literal and political. See, while the rest of the country is currently working to rebuild faith, freedom, and order, California's leadership is busy turning the Golden State into a smoldering punchline. See, in Newsom's Los Angeles, you can lose your home to an absolutely preventable wildfire, lose your small business to months of road closures from draconian so-called environmental measures as a result of the wildfires, then scrape together every last dollar that you have and hope to reopen in a new location, only to get looted days after pulling this miracle and be told by Democrat elites that it's your privilege that caused that. This is the Democrat idea of progress, folks. Criminals are celebrated, working class Americans get punished, and chaos is the new normal. Democrats don't just refuse to enforce the law, they rewrite it mid-crime. They're not protecting neighborhoods, they're running equity experiments and destruction. So today we're diving into what happens when a beautiful state is hijacked by professional Marxists. Let's take a look at this wreckage.
Owner of Magoo's showroom says he lost his home and his first store in January's fire. Now, what you're looking at right now is surveillance video of his new location in Hollywood. And you can see a group of men breaking in through a window yesterday. The owner feels like he was targeted in this case, and he says he will now be temporarily closing this second location that he just opened.
Wow.
They were grabbing very specific racks that they cleared and certain items, brands. They knew the exact layout of the store. They used signal jammers and was messing up my ADT alarms.
If you're curious what Gavin's presidency would look like, look no further than this security video. This is a Democrat brand of governance in full display: destruction, demoralization, and denial. A man loses his home and his business in a California wildfire. Then after scraping together the courage and capital to reopen in Hollywood, he gets looted days later by a coordinated criminal crew using signal jammers like it's Mission Impossible. And what's the state's response? Nothing. No protection, no accountability, just a silent implication that he should be grateful to even try again. This isn't just about robbery, by the way. It's about a culture where crime is coddled, victims are ignored, and the institutions meant to protect honest, hardworking Americans have been hollowed out by ideological rot. Democrats like Newsom govern through emotional slogans and fake empathy while letting the social fabric burn. And then they call all of this equity. Remember when AOC said that people needed to loot and rob so they could feed their starving families? How are they going to feed their families' shoes, folks? This is what happens when you replace justice with jargon, competence with activism, and leadership with virtue signaling. It's not just California, by the way. This model is metastasizing, and unless people wake up, what's happening in LA will be the blueprint for the rest of America. And you need to look no further than other cities where Democrats have had majority rule for decades, like Chicago, Detroit, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Philadelphia. All cities run almost exclusively by Democrats for years upon years, and all suffering from a very similar rot. Chicago saw over 800 homicides in 2021 alone, more than Los Angeles and New York combined. In Portland, homicides rose over 200% after the city defunded police in 2020, and downtown remains a ghost town of boarded up shops and fentanyl tents. San Francisco now has more drug overdose deaths than COVID deaths, with over 800 people dying from fentanyl in 2023 alone, many within blocks of City Hall. In Detroit, nearly half of residents are functionally illiterate after years of union-dominated school boards failing to deliver basic education. And in Philadelphia, the city recorded its second deadliest year on record in 2023, with carjackings up over 400% since 2019. Seattle, once the crown jewel of the Pacific Northwest, is now grappling with open-air drug markets and entire stretches of the city deemed unsafe after police were defunded and demonized. These aren't isolated failures. They're the direct result of a political ideology founded in Marxism and which refuses to punish crime because the end goal is to undo the fabric of American society by undermining law and order. And that's how you dissolve America from within. You sow chaos, then normalize it. You create a permanent state of crisis that breeds distrust in institutions. You weaken law enforcement, then install activist judges at every level. Judges whose explicit goal is to redefine long-standing interpretations of the law, setting precedents that de-incentivize lawfulness. And over time, this erodes the American tradition of legal accountability and respect for order. And eventually, slowly, almost imperceptibly, and from the bottom up, you weaken the Constitution itself. And by the time most citizens realize what's happened, they're living in a soft totalitarian state. No real rights, no real freedoms, and total dependency on government. Don't be fooled. This is the playbook. Democrats don't want balance. They want full Marxist control of your life. They want communism. They want you out, and they want their people in, by any means necessary. Anyway, folks, Gavin Newsom is apparently back to work after taking an entire week off to launch his embarrassing presidential bid. And guess what? After doing about 500,000 podcasts, he's back home to do a press conference to tell you what you should be offended by. Let's see if he actually got anything right.
I worry about people's lives.
Oh, yeah?
I'm telling you. We're on the verge.
Ah, shut up.
This is serious.
You're such a liar.
I mean, if someone just randomly, if I'm walking down the street with my kids and someone grabs me,
bro,
with a mask on and tries to throw me in an unmarked van, and I am looking at my kids,
what?
I'm surprised someone hasn't gotten hurt. Someone is going to get hurt.
What are you talking about?
The best thing that happened to this administration, maybe that they have to come to realization.
I think it's safe to say, folks, that Gavin has virtue signaled himself retarded. What started over the last few weeks as performative outrage over ICE operations is now morphed into some deranged fantasy where Gavin is the star of this weird political theater where he's kidnapped in broad daylight while heroically shielding his children. This isn't leadership, folks. It's delusion dressed up as some weird version of moral clarity. And behind this painful theatrics is a dangerous lie. The idea that federal law enforcement acting on immigration violations, and with warrants, by the way, is somehow equivalent to authoritarian abduction. This kind of rhetoric isn't just dishonest, it's designed to inflame, to demonize law institutions, and to emotionally manipulate a population already conditioned by years of media hysteria and educational indoctrination. Democrats like Newsom has spent years, folks, dismantling trust in every American norm, from border enforcement to policing to due process, replacing them with a narrative where feelings override facts, and anyone enforcing the law is just a villain. It's no coincidence that sanctuary policies, these activist judges, and the media-driven outrage have all created this climate where actual law-breaking is protected, where ICE agents are being stoned in the streets because of morons like Gavin. This isn't compassion, by the way. And this fantasy, it's not real. This man is an American citizen. He's never going to get deported because American citizens aren't getting deported. It's all controlled demolition. And the longer we pretend any of this is normal, the longer we allow these buffoons to run their mouths and act like they have any sort of moral high ground or place to make commentary like this, the more unrecognizable our country becomes. We need to hold these people to the fire, folks. We have to be on top of them every single day, because the reason why they're getting away with this kind of rhetoric, with this level of shamelessness, is because they're allowed to do this. Until Democrats feel the same heat they inflicted on mothers and fathers across the country for refusing the COVID vaccine, until they get a taste of what it's like to be completely ostracized from your community for believing a child has a right to life, until they bear the full weight and stain of what they've done to this country over the last 2 decades, they will keep getting away with stunts like this. This has to end, folks, and it ends with us.
One's completely disappeared. It would require those same voters to make a determination on the basis of current facts. We can be stubborn, and just assume everything's status quo ante.
What are you talking about?
I mean, they've changed. There's no. Used to be 3 co-equal branches of government. One's completely disappeared.
What? This man isn't just making it up as he goes along. He genuinely thinks you're a moron. and that he can say whatever half-formed nonsense pops into his head and you'll buy it because he has good hair and a D next to his name. Gavin Newsom's incoherent rambling and literal tap dancing, you saw it. The man starts doing this at the end of his press conference. It's not just personal failure. This is all a symptom of a political class so shielded by the media, so propped up by activist institutions that they've completely lost all incentive to speak clearly, truthfully, coherently, and to you at home. When he babbles about the status quo, anti, and branches of government that have disappeared, he's not offering analysis. He's just manufacturing confusion, demonic confusion. It's obfuscation by design, because in the California model of governance that he, by the way, wants to export to the whole country, the goal isn't to lead. It's just to spin, gesture, perform, and hope the press clips the right 5 seconds. This is what happens when accountability is dead, when the press acts as your personal PR arm, and when voters are conditioned to respond more to the vibes than to the facts. Newsom doesn't even need to make sense. He just needs to sound outraged while dismantling the very system he pretends to protect.
I said to someone, I got it easy.
What?
Wrong. White guy.
What?
Privileges.
No.
Talking to members of the community, they feel like democracy is already gone.
You didn't just pull a race
For me,
card.
it still seems to be, on life support, but moving along.
Come on,
they feel
Gavin.
like authoritarianism's already come to their community.
Because
They're
of
not
you.
even walking the streets. We were here, not just in businesses that are empty. Entire shopping malls empty. It's summertime.
Huh.
There was no one till that young woman came in with that young girl came in with her mom. There was no one in the ice cream store in the middle of the day.
And whose
In the
fault
summer.
is that?
One of the most beautiful communities, Bell, in California.
Huh. And who's governor?
Tourists. So what happened to the tourists? Not just from Mexico, not just from Canada, from Europe. They said the tourists aren't coming.
And who's governor? Gavin really pulled the race card and thought, hey, I hit myself a homer. But let's be real, folks. He struck out worse than Joey Gallo in a slump. Watching the governor of California tear up while confessing his white privilege, as if that explains the empty shopping malls, the vanishing tourism, and the economic decay his own policies created, is peak political theater. This isn't accountability, by the way. It's emotional manipulation dressed as self-awareness. The deeper problem here is how the left has trained an entire generation of leaders to frame every failure through the lens of identity rather than policy. Businesses aren't closing because Gavin's white. They're closing because California's overregulation, rampant crime, and performative politics have made it unlivable for the working class and unattractive for even the most moderate amount of investment. But instead of addressing real causes like failed lockdowns, soft on crime policies, suffocating taxes, Newsom defaults to race and blaming Trump because it deflects blame and keeps the media applause going, especially when he can figure out a way to blame Trump for something. This is how identity politics and Democrat grievance politics works now, folks. It turns leadership into performance art and converts self-inflicted wounds into teachable moments for everyone but the people actually suffering. And while Gavin plays therapist in chief, our state just keeps bleeding out from every seam. Now, the truth Gavin will never say out loud is that people aren't avoiding California because of systemic injustice or his white skin. They're avoiding it because it feels like a collapsing state, and it very much is. Tourists don't want to stroll past fentanyl zombies, open-air prostitution, or human waste on city sidewalks, just homelessness everywhere you go, tents, people dying on the street by the thousands every year. But here's some cold, hard data to just illustrate to you how far Gavin has driven us into the pit. Because according to a 2023 report from the Public Policy Institute in California, violent crime rose by 13% from 2019 to 2022. Property crime surged in major cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, with organized smash and grab robberies now a routine event. Nearly half of San Francisco residents say they've been victims of theft or attempted theft, and tourism in that city alone is down 20% from pre-COVID levels. California also leads the nation in homelessness, with over 180,000 homeless people as of 2023, roughly 30% of the entire American homeless population. And large portions of LA, San Francisco, and Oakland are completely overrun with encampments. You can't go downtown in LA without running into a huge city of tents. Meanwhile, prostitution has been effectively decriminalized with the passage of SB 357, signed by Newsom in 2022, which repealed laws against loitering for the purpose of prostitution, leading to skyrocketing street sex work in areas like Oakland's International Boulevard. Add in California's highest in the nation gas prices, unaffordable housing, and hostile regulatory environment, and it's no mystery why over 800,000 Californians left the state between 2020 and 2023, and why businesses and families alike are saying no thanks to the once golden state. It's not white privilege, Gavin, that's keeping people away. It's Democrat policy, and you're the main culprit. So the question isn't whether California can be saved, it's whether we're willing to admit who actually broke it. How much longer are we going to let the people responsible for the collapse play the victims in this situation? How many more cities have to rot from the inside out before we stop confusing emotional performances with leadership? These aren't isolated failures, folks. They're deliberate choices made by Marxist Democrats who mask their actions in moral language. They sell all of this as progress, and they enforce it through shame. They shame you for seeing the obvious, calling it out, and standing against it. So if the Democrats in charge can destroy the most prosperous state in the union while convincing the rest of the country that they're compassionate for doing that, what else can they get away with? At some point, folks, we have to stop and ask ourselves, is this chaos actually accidental? Or is it just part of their Marxist, Leninist plan? You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.